We use the word pole a lot in racing.
Pole position!
Usually to refer to whoever's starting at the front of the grid. But can you believe there has only been one driver in the entire history of Formula One who has represented the country of Poland?
Polish gumi flying.
That's right, over the entire 75 years Formula One has existed for, Robert Kubica is the only Polish man to have ever competed in the sport. The only one to make it to the pinnacle of motorsport that NASCAR fans will probably call Euro shit. I like them both, guys. Can't a man enjoy two things? But the story of this driver, Robert Kubica, is one that may bring a tear to your eye, and I actually think we could learn a few things from this driver. Robert Kubica was born in Krakow, Poland. Like probably most people watching this video, he fell in love with cars at a young age. And unlike most people watching this video, or at least me, it wasn't because of three funny men on the TV doing stupid things.
Hammond, you idiot! You reversed into the sports lorry!
But it was instead by spotting a small 4-brake horsepower child's off-road vehicle that he really wanted to have a go in. And so his dad bought it for him and he had loads of fun. The thing is, as he got older, that wouldn't suffice him. He wanted a go-kart, and once he was 10 years old, he could enter the Polish karting championship. Now, putting Robert Kubica in the Polish karting championship was like playing on a Smurf account in a competitive game, because he absolutely smoked the competition. Just like how my face got smoked by the sun, because yes, I am aware I'm very red at the moment. I forgot sun cream. Kubica literally won 6 championships in Poland over 3 years. And because of this, what can only be described as dominance, Robert Kubica was able to move into the more competitive Italian karting championship. I guess this was still too easy for him though. Or maybe he found a way to distract the Italian competition by leaving pizzas on the floor and they would just stop over and eat them. Because Robert became the first foreigner to ever win the Italian championship. And I think by now you may start to get the idea that every time he advanced in go-karting, he would still be very, very dominant, or at least very competitive. As he continued to climb the ranks, eventually he got the opportunity to race in Formula Renault. And again here, Kubica had some mega results. During his rookie season, he scored a pole position and actually landed himself a place in Renault's driver development program, which is always nice to have as a bit of backing, especially going into your second season of Formula Renault, where again he took even more wins and actually ended up finishing second in the Italian championship. I mean, he could have just still been using the pizza tactic, but who knows? Who knows? That's what I would do. Now, by 2003, Robert was already set to be competing in Formula 3, earning himself yet another series he's been promoted up into. But this time, he had to start his first season of F3 late because he'd broken his arm. This was during a road car accident, and listen, if this isn't some Final Destination shit, because foreshadowing, then I don't know what is. He had to have some titanium bolts put into his arm, and the first race he competed in, he was using an arm brace, and bear in mind, first ever race in F3, he's got this injury, and he fucking won. The first ever F3 race he ever competed in. That is crazy. So evidently, Robert Kubica was shaping up to be something very special. And if you want to make me feel special, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Bigger number, better person, guys. Trust me. Also, I know I'm yapping a little bit, but I want to give a big thanks to my channel members. You guys are really awesome, and I very much appreciate the extra help you give me every single month. You can become one from just 99p. Thanks, guys. But let's shut up, Dan No Skill. What an idiot. And talk about some magical moments from Robert Kubica's career. Because now we need to mention the Macau Grand Prix. If you don't know what the Macau Grand Prix is, imagine the Monaco Formula One race. Especially if you've played the F1 game and know how difficult that circuit is. Now, put it on steroids. The Macau GP is longer, tighter, sharper, and far more dangerous. There is literally a hairpin so tight, they have to have permanent yellow flags waved there because you cannot get 2 cars side by side. I mean, it's so small, they have to race Formula 3 cars around it because F1 cars quite literally can't fit. They would not be able to do the turn. So Robert Kubica, as all F3 competitors do, traveled to the Macau GP. And he not only only took pole position on this difficult circuit, but he broke the lap record in doing so. I mean, in the race, he only finished second, but then again, I am saying only, as if second in Macau isn't still absolutely amazing. Usually, the people who get a win especially, and any podium position in Macau, are set to be pretty good Formula 1 drivers. I've tried the circuit in Assetto Corsa and was dead within the first lap.
This isn't actually so bad. I think I can do this.
2 seconds later.
Oh, oh my god.
So like I said, achieving a result like that at Macau really does set you up for success in racing, because it's one of those tracks that shows just how much talent you have and doesn't mean you're relying on other things like cars or money. After this, Kubica moved up to Formula Renault 3.5 and saw some more success. If you're wondering why all these series have really goofy ass names, it's because the FIA was yet to streamline the junior categories from being just F4, F3, F2, and instead you just had a bunch of Formula Ballsack 2.7 that people would race in. It was the 2000s. Decimal numbers were cool. Anyway, with his success in junior categories, Robert Kubica earned himself a role as the test driver for Renault in Formula 1. This would get him his first experience in the top level of single-seater motorsport and get the entire country of Poland very, very excited for a potential F1 debut. And as I'm sure the entire country is probably watching this video and in my comments section, hello! In 2006, Robert Kubica made their dreams come true because he debuted for his first Grand Prix weekend. It was under some strange circumstances, as 2007 actually looked more likely to be his debut year, but after an accident at the German Grand Prix, BMW Sauber's Jacques Villeneuve, you know, the F1 driver famous for winning the 1997 World Championship, and also reminding us all why there are some perks to being deaf.
Je ne donnerai jamais assez.
Yes, that is his actual song. And yes, I'm sorry you had to listen to some of it. Villeneuve had been complaining of headaches after his crash in Germany. I wonder if maybe he'd been listening to his own music. But he was told he wasn't fit to continue, which was something he disagreed with, but whatever. What it meant for us was that Robert Kubica had a drive in Formula 1, and he was going to make his debut with the BMW Sauber team. So in his first race, he out-qualified experienced teammate and actually reasonably high-rated solid driver, Nick Heidfeld, and he went on to finish in a solid position of 7th, a pretty strong debut for Kubica, before he was then disqualified for the car being underweight. Boom! Anyway, shortly after Kubica's debut, Jacques Villeneuve actually said, "Fuck you guys, I'm leaving the team." And everyone just hoped and prayed he wouldn't continue his music career.
Blocks and shit.
Or even worse, be doing commentary. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Bodie over there. What's it like to have no hair?
So with Kubica now confirmed for the rest of the season, let's see how he did. His second race was actually pretty disappointing. It wasn't a great... And then in his third race, he got on the f***ing podium. That is right. Kubica became one of the very few drivers to score a podium within 3 F1 starts. And of course, kind of by default, he became the first pole to be on a podium ever in Formula 1. What a result. So let's keep going into 2007. And again, I'm going to use the, is this foreshadowing, final destination? Because in 2007, he suffered a major crash. During the Canadian Grand Prix, Robert had an absolutely massive crash going into the hairpin after making contact with Jarno Trulli. The crash took place at over 300 kilometers an hour, 186 miles an hour in Berger units, and suffered a peak G-force of 75 Gs. The worst part of it all was the crash was so severe, you could actually see his feet sticking out of the nose cone after the crash, and I already know some degenerate is in the comments going, "Feet for free?" Thankfully, Robert was okay and suffered from only minor injuries and had a bit of a concussion. But he sat out the next round in Indianapolis as a bit of a precaution anyway, just in case. When he did arrive in France to start competing again, he managed a 4th place finish. Again, showing he was very easily able to recover from a major setback.
I don't give a shit, dude.
And still perform at the top half of the grid. Another thing that I think really shows this pure determination from Kubica is what happened the next year in 2008 in, wait for it, Canada. Now, in 2008, young me was just about developing consciousness. Whoever let me do that, terrible idea, because now here I am being silly. At around 4 years old. But Robert Kubica was well and truly conscious and ready to race. You would be forgiven for thinking that after the major crash, Robert Kubica would be a little bit tentative in Canada. You know, just hold back his pace a touch. Because at this point into 2008, he'd already taken his first ever pole position in Bahrain. Yes, here is the obligatory first pole to take pole position joke. Now you may laugh. And he'd also managed a second place finish in Monaco. So at Canada, he didn't think, I'll tone it down a little, take it easy. I know how dangerous this can be. He instead went and qualified in P2 by sheer aura power, then made Hamilton and Raikkonen have a crash in the pit lane, eliminating his closest rivals from the race, and then took home a 1-2 finish for BMW Sauber like an absolute fucking legend and became a race winner. What an actual mad lad this guy was. Coming from a country F1 had never really gave a shit about, driving for a team many would write off as just midfield slop, Kubica was bringing in results and bringing the fight to the top 10 that nobody expected. Now in 2009, he'd been on good form again and achieved a highest finish of a second place. So for 2010, he was given a promotion to the
Renault
F1 team. The team he'd started out as a test driver for before moving to BMW Sauber. This was another amazing year for Robert Kubica. His brilliant driving had actually managed to get him a multi-year deal with Renault all the way up until the start of 2012. In 2022, Fernando Alonso actually went on the record and said that Robert Kubica was one of the best drivers he ever competed against. Literally because he was so dominant in many different single-seater series, all with very close competition. Formula Renault 2000, Formula 3, Formula Renault 3.5, they were all spec series that were very close and he dominated them. And his raw speed in the F1 cars he drove was just incredible. That is very high praise from someone who many would call one of the best F1 drivers of all time. He didn't make me say that. I promise he didn't make me say it. That 2010 season with Renault again saw Robert on the podium multiple times. He didn't quite manage a win in this year, but he did confidently destroy his teammate. And that led to him getting the biggest opportunity of his life. After the 2011 season, like I mentioned, Robert Kubica's contract was set to run out. But for 2012, Ferrari wanted him.
Hi there, would you like to sign my Ferrari contract?
They'd seen his strong performances at BMW Sauber, they'd seen his season in 2010 at Renault, and they wanted him to partner Fernando Alonso for the 2012 campaign. Of course, Kubica had signed the contract. Who wouldn't? It's Ferrari, not the French. And we all know in hindsight that that car truly was able to fight for the championship. It would even probably be incredibly close battling between Fernando and Kubica. Maybe even Kubica could manage himself a title if he really was that good. Who knows what could happen? All Robert had to do was make it through the 2011 season. February 6th, 2011. Robert Kubica had been testing Renault's F1 car just 3 days earlier, as 2011 was about to get underway and everyone was really excited to see what was going to happen. But on this day, he was instead competing in the Ronde de Andorra Rally, just as a bit of fun before the F1 season properly started. That was until, near the church of San Sebastiano, his Skoda Fabia lost control, and he smashed into a barrier at high speed. The barrier had penetrated the cockpit and actually struck Robert, meaning he was stuck inside the car for over an hour as rescue teams tried to get him out. When he eventually was airlifted to hospital, Robert actually had to undergo multiple minor amputations in his arm, and the recovery looks set to be lengthy. He did not compete in the 2011 season. This meant it ended up becoming one of the biggest what-ifs in Formula One history. What if Robert had continued enjoying Ferrari? We all know Fernando Alonso came very close to winning the championship in that car, and that Felipe Massa as a teammate wasn't quite on the same pace. What would have happened if Kubica was in there instead? Would we have had a Polish champion, or potentially a Ferrari constructors title, or even Alonso winning the title? Who knows at the end of the day, and who really cares? We can dwell on what would have happened forever, and we'll never really know because it didn't happen. What we can find out is what did Kubica actually do? Because as I'm sure you've all realized by now, Robert is one of the most determined racing drivers ever. His right hand had lost most of its function after the crash. So when Robert did an interview about what it was like, he described it as being 70% left-handed and having about 30% right-handed. Meaning when he was driving, he had to minimize as much as possible what he was doing with his right hand. In 2013, he was ready to make his racing return. And of course, he started exactly where he left off. This is the point that got me thinking he might have a bit of a screw loose in his brain, because he went straight back to rallying. What? You know, where that massive crash had happened. He competed in WRC2, which in very simple terms, and I mean really, really simple terms, is the Formula 2 equivalent of WRC. Of course, in his first race back, he crashed again. Someone please show this man Final Destination. He has the survival instincts of a fish. But I guess it's good he didn't listen to me, as he won the Acropolis Rally that season by 90 seconds. He still fucking had it. After a few more successful rallying escapades, like beating Valentino Rossi, you know, the guy that's really, really good at motorbikes. In Fortnite terms, Rossi is basically Tfue. Does he still exist, actually? Am I reaching Unk status now with Fortnite YouTube? Well, after rallying for a bit, Robert moved on, and he tried his hand at some sports car racing. First, he competed in GT3s in events like the 24 Hours of Dubai in 2017. But he also moved on to some LMP1 cars, although not actually being able to secure a World Endurance Championship drive for 2017, despite some really promising pace in some of the tests he did. If you don't know what WEC or the World Endurance Championship is, it's kind of like the Formula 1 of sports car racing, and it holds the world famous 24 Hours of Le Mans event. If you asked Robert in 2010 what his goal was with racing, he probably would have told you to win a Formula 1 World Championship like every other F1 driver.
Formula 1 World Champion.
To be a world champion.
World champion.
World Champion.
I opened the restaurant.
But after his crash, that obviously didn't really look possible anymore. Having one hand not really usable was never going to leave you as good as before. But instead, he came up with a new goal for himself, to just compete in F1 again. He didn't need to score any wins, any podiums, even any points. He just wanted to prove to the world that he could take another shot at F1. Throughout 2017, he tested with Renault and Williams, with Renault's team boss even stating that Kubica was still fast, consistent, and enthusiastic. During his test, he put in nearly 150 laps at the Hungaroring and was 4th fastest in the Renault. Then he put in another 100 laps at Abu Dhabi, and this time finished 7th fastest with Williams. In 2018, Robert was then given the reserve driver role at Williams, and when he got to drive in an FP1 session, he beat his teammate Lance Stroll. Oh, actually, thinking about it, that bar wasn't very high, but he still beat him.
Hilarious joke, Dan.
I know a lot of you have probably sat there typing, practice doesn't matter. But you know what? Fuck you. Because in 2019, he did it. He got the Williams F1 seat. He was going to be alongside George Russell for a full season of Formula 1. I mean, sure, the car was absolute arse cheeks, and putting even a monkey in the cockpit would have yielded similar results. And sure, over the season, Russell ended up looking quite a bit quicker than Kubica most of the time. But in Germany, Robert scored a point. I don't care if it was because the Saubers got disqualified. He scored a point. Go on, mate. And that is all he wanted to do. Get back in F1, prove to everybody he could still compete at the top level, and he didn't need to go any further than that. We all saw that he is one of the most determined racing drivers ever, and he even had not half bad pace. He announced his F1 retirement in 2020 after just one season, season back, although we would see him again in a few Grand Prix. In 2021, he replaced Kimi Raikkonen at the Dutch and Italian Grand Prix with the team he started out at, Sauber, and that latter race being the last ever time we saw him in Formula One. But wait, it doesn't just end the story there, because Robert Kubica is still going strong. Remember earlier I was talking about that WEC drive he never got? Well, in 2021, he started making steps towards that too. He competed in the European Le Mans Series in LMP2, with ELMS, or European Le Mans Series, basically being like a younger brother to WEC. And at the end of that season, his team won the championship. Then in 2022, he ended up finishing second at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in the World Endurance Championship in his class of LMP2. Just bear in mind, LMP2 weren't the fastest class, hypercar were. Then in 2023, he won the entire LMP2 class championship in WEC and again finished second in Le Mans. So in 2024, he got the drive he'd been wanting, a hypercar. And guess what he'd be driving? A Ferrari. And this year, he's still there, and his team is even third in the championship currently. We've yet to have Le Mans in 2025 as of recording, but I'm really excited to see how he'll do. Let's go Kubica. Honestly, if this man and this video teaches you anything, it's don't be polar. It's not that. It's just keep going. Setback after setback, crash after crash, injury after injury. Robert Kubica always came back and proved everyone wrong, that it just didn't affect him. After the crash in 2011, I bet he never thought he would be in the top level of motorsport driving a Ferrari. And yet, in 2025, here he is doing just that. I mean, WEC is like IndyCar or NASCAR or WRC. It's one of the top levels of motorsport alongside Formula One. I honestly can't wait to see him go on to do great things. And he is making an entire country of people who get very little motorsport, especially not F1 representation, very proud. So if you did enjoy this deep dive on Robert Kubica and his story, please do consider subscribing. It does mean a lot. And of course, just once more, I want to thank the channel members. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate everything you do for the channel. If you are interested in more, watch this video next. Have a lovely rest of your day and goodbye.